Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to Season 9 of the Attrition Sim Race Campus Oval Series. Tonight, we are here for the penultimate round of the season, round number 11, at one of the trickiest tracks that we have been to all season. Tonight, we are here at the Concord Speedway, of course, in Concord, North Carolina. The miniature tricky triangle here tonight. All three corners of this unique oval, all at different bankings, all at different degrees of tightness. And just to spice things up a little bit extra down there too, all of the straightaways are also at different bankings here tonight. So drivers are using fixed setups here tonight. We did switch to fixed setups a couple weeks ago, so that will continue to be the trend here this evening. So everyone on a bit of a even playing field here, and I feel like if it were still open setup, this would be one of the most significant tracks for having a good setup built. Because when every single aspect of this track, every single corner, every single straightaway is different from each other, it's bound to be a little bit hairy down there. That said, drivers have made their way down to the starting grid and are getting ready to start their pace laps now, so how about we head down there and take a look at our starting lineup here tonight. Starting out on the pole of tonight's race here tonight, that is going to be the number 1 of Jason Mong, quite possibly getting his first ever pole of the season here with ASRC. Starting his outside, it's the driver who has led every race of the championship up until tonight. It's Travis Sukup in the number 145. Back in P number 3, that's the 93 of Mr. Jason Gardner, league admin, rolling off in that purple and red Kmart Little Caesars entry. Back in 4th place, another drop in Rollins Racing entry, that's the 10 of Steven Rex, starting back in P number 4. 5th place gonna go back to that California driver, the Club West Racing number 85 of Brian Sabelski. 6th place gonna go back to the 51 of Eric Gahn and the MR Customs entry, with the Dirtbag Racing number 337 rounding out this 7-car field here tonight. 100 laps, as always, going to be the distance here this evening. And with the iRacing.com pace car pulled into the safety of pit lane, we are getting ready to get this thing underway. Green flag up in the air, and we are heading down into turn number 1, side by side. Sukup and Mong. Sukup up on the high line there in the 145, Mong down low. Mong, again, I believe this is his first ever pole start here this evening, and they're having a little bit of contact coming into turn number 3. That's going to allow Jason Gardner to get involved. He's going to back off heading into turn number 1. He knows if he takes that turn 3 wide, there is bound to be a wreck, and it is just a little bit too early for that. That said, moving back just a little bit has allowed Brian Sabelski to catch up in that number 85 machine. Sabelski is in a prime position to try and break his way into the top 3 here tonight. Of course, round number 11 of the season, only 12 races in total, so next week we will be crowning a champion one way or another. The clock for this season is running out. Drivers need to get every single point that they can in these next 2 races if they want to move up in the championship standings. Now, coming into tonight's event, Tyler McRae and Travis Sukup both have a pretty considerable lead over the rest of the field in terms of points here tonight, which is not surprising, considering in the past 10 races, Tyler McRae got 5 wins, Travis Sukup 5 wins as well. However, McRae is not in attendance here tonight, so that might be hurting his championship lead here this evening. Of course, there is 4 drop weeks, so this will most likely end up being one of his drop weeks. But that still doesn't change the fact that not being able to attend a race in the final closing chapters of the season is not doing yourself any favors. McRae is the championship leader coming into tonight's event by only a mere 2 points here tonight. That is basically a single finishing position in a single race of lead that he has over Travis Sukup. So naturally, Sukup most likely going to be getting those positions back and going back up to the top of the ASRC Oval Series Season 9 Championship regardless of where he finishes. Of course, we will know next week for our championship event what the points will actually be after the drop weeks are calculated. But behind those two, back in third in the championship standings, is the driver back in fifth right now here tonight. It is the 10 of Mr. Steven Rex, the driver out of Channahon, Illinois, rolling back in third in the championship standings. Then Brian Sabelski fourth, Jason Gardner in fifth. Like I said, very considerable gap. McRae with 215 points, Sukup with 213, and then there's an entire 60-point drop down to Steven Rex with 151. Sabelski another about 12 points back. He's with 139 points, and then Gardner with 116. So for the most part, things in the championship standings are looking pretty cut and dry, but that's not going to stop these drivers from pushing these street stocks with every single last thing they've got. A little bit of news came down from the iRacing.com development team, though. iRacing going to be having a new late model stock car being added to the service next season, which of course lines up with the ASRC Oval Series season. So it's very possible that next season we may be seeing a return to the late model stock as the car of choice for the ASRC Oval Series. But that still remains as a very big what if. That has not actually been decided upon, but the option very much is there. The late models were very popular back in season 7 and 8, and returning in a new package, all new updated graphics, all new updated physics to match the real life car could be a very exciting development for these drivers. Bill Watkins having a bit of trouble heading down into turn number 3. He's going to get passed by Eric Gahn pretty handily, and now he is falling back, currently back in the 7th position, so that has returned Gahn and Watkins to where they have qualified. 17 laps in the books, still a long way left to go. Pit stop bound to happen at some point here tonight, and that might just be what shakes up this field, what gets positions gained or lost. But for now, it's just a whole lot of what ifs on how this race ends up playing out. Closest battle on the speedway right now is between Sabelski and Gardner. Call it about 3/4 of a second between these two drivers, maybe about probably roughly 4 car lengths between those two street stocks. Sabelski currently the driver holding on to the final podium position here this evening. But you gotta look up in P number 2. Jason Mong, the driver who started on the pole here this season, here this race, now back in P number 2, but still, P number 2 would be his best finish of the season by far. Last week back in North Wilkesboro, he brought it home 8th. The week before that, it was 6th. The week before that, he wasn't here. The week before that, it was 4th. So 4th is Mong's best finish so far in season 9. He could be looking to best that here this evening. And of course, he only has ever gotten 1 win here in the ASRC Oval Series, so he is in the contention here tonight to pick up his 2nd ever win with the league. Now I say that and he scrapes the outside wall. I'm not doing him any favors there by making him hit the wall when I talk about him. But either way, there is a lot on the line for a lot of these drivers, even if it isn't necessarily contention for the championship title here tonight. That said, as Sukup comes out of turn number 3 and crosses the line here, gonna be 25 laps to in the books. 75 to go, a quarter of the way through this race, just like that. And Concord Speedway, one of the more interesting short ovals on the Speedway course in its unique three-corner design, somewhat reminiscent of Pocono, and for those of you who have their nostalgia glasses on, also maybe a little bit reminiscent of Nazareth Speedway as well. Of course, this track only clocks in at half a mile in length, or 0.8 kilometers in length, so significantly smaller than the other notable triangle tracks out there. Opened up all the way back in 1982. Unfortunately, Concord Speedway shut its doors for the final time back in 2019, and the track has since been demolished, so no more racing here at this triangle in the real world, but it still lives on the iRacing.com platform, and it's still putting on a pretty solid race here this evening for the ASRC Oval Series. Now next season, we will be, or not next season, but next week, the championship of this season, we will be heading on over to the Bull Ring, which I believe is making its first ever appearance here in the ASRC Oval Series over the course of 9 seasons, nearly 3 years now of Oval Series racing, and drivers have never managed to take their cars to the Bull Ring, so next week bound to be a bit of a learning experience for everyone. I know earlier in this season we revisited a couple of tracks from season 1, and that brought back a lot of good memories for these drivers, but to declare a champion this season, they're going to have to go to something entirely unfamiliar to all of them. And I'll tell you what a drive that is. Of course, we are here in North Carolina for this race here at Concord Speedway. The Bull Ring is right next to the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. They gotta drive all the way over to Nevada for their next race for the championship. And for a second there, I thought someone might have had a little bit of an oopsie. Our timing and scoring says that Eric Gahn entered pit lane. Evidently that is not the case, as he is out here making his way around this speedway. Currently running back in the 6th position here tonight. Last time by, 17.93. So last time by, actually set a faster lap time than Steven Rex. If he manages to keep that up, he might just be able to close the gap. Looking at everyone's lap times so far, fastest lap of the race set by Travis Sukup, a 17.30, but Sabelski is just behind him, only 1,000th of a second off of Sukup's best time. And Mong is in a little bit of sandwich right there in between them. His best time, a 17.44, an entire 10th of a second off the first place and third place drivers in terms of best lap time. Now, of course, now drivers setting pretty similar lap times to each other. Looking at their laps last time by, everywhere in the range of high 17.7s to low 17.9s. So give or take about a 10th of a second in terms of lap time for all of the drivers out on the speedway here this evening. Eric Gahn is managing to close the gap here to Steven Rex, though. Rex up in the outside wall down the front stretch, not what he needs to be doing 38 laps into this race. Sure enough, they are closing the gap, and Gahn is catching up to Rex pretty handily. He's going to dive it down way down low and pull alongside the driver of that number 10 machine. Not quite enough to clear him, but heading down into turn number 2, he is going to make the pass. And Rex falling back a little bit, like he's got a parachute strapped to the back of that number 10 Rex's Garage Street Stock. It's entirely possible that the driver of that number 10 machine is on fuel saving mode right now. Sometimes that is simply the best strategy. If you can't win the race on pace, then you might as well try and win it on strategy. And we have seen that be such the case many times here in the ASRC Oval Series. We've even seen drivers manage their fuel so well that they managed to go the entire race without pitting, and that is simply how they managed to get the win. They were the only car on the speedway that did not go down pit lane. Of course, we're spewing a whole lot of hypotheticals right now. It all depends on how these things play out. But speaking of pit lane, Bill Watkins going to be coming down to make his stop here this evening. Watkins pulling it on down to his pit box. What is the order going to be? So far, looks like at least 2 tires, maybe even 4 for the 337. That said, looks like he might actually be packing it up and calling it an evening here tonight, because he's not down on the pit lane anymore. It looks like trouble. Brian Sabelski's around. Jason Gardner's around as well. Caution out on the speedway for the first time here this evening, and I'll tell you what, that looked like a pretty hard impact for the driver of that number 93 machine. I don't think anyone was expecting a caution to come out here this evening, but sometimes the unexpected chaos likes to make its way out into the field, and you can hear the front end of that number 93 dragging against the ground here. There is something seriously damaged on the underside of that number 93 machine. Let's see if we can't take a look back here and see what is making that black and red driver come on down pit lane here. Looking back at the number 85 of Brian Sabelski, and a little bit in front of him, or actually just behind him, is Gardner in the black and purple 93. Heading down into turn number 3, Sabelski just gets a little bit loose, he locks it down, and Gardner, oh, that's an awful impact for Gardner. Slams on the brakes, locks it up, tries to avoid the 85, minor contact with Sabelski, but then it's just the hit against the inside wall that seals the deal for that number 93. Let's take a little bit look back here at that Kmart Little Caesars entry. Heading down into turn number 3, he sees Sabelski spin, he locks down the brakes, and a massive impact to the inside wall. That is going to be a very significant amount of work required on that number 93 machine. Let's take a ride on board here with the driver of the number 93, Mr. Jason Gardner. Riding on board with him on his helmet GoPro, not a sponsor cam here. You can hear how loose these street stocks are, the tires squealing a bit as they swerve around. Sabelski spins around, he just moves to avoid, tries his best. And yeah, that is absolutely a broken left front suspension, if not an entirely broken axle. But now green flag coming back up in the air here tonight. We are going racing yet again. 46 laps in the book. Travis Sukup and Steven Rex making up positions 1 and 2. Rex, the only driver that elected not to pit here this evening. Rex, the only driver that has not come down pit lane whatsoever here tonight. Everyone else looking like the verdict are very similar, somewhere between, looks like 2 tires probably for Sukup, 2 tires for Mong, but for Gon and Sabelski, it looks like they might have taken 4. Sabelski in particular, a very long pit stop time. Looks like he had to get some damage repaired after that impact with Gardner. Gardner, however, still down on pit lane. It's going to take a pretty considerable amount of time to get that car repaired. That said, these 3 drivers up in the, I guess the best way to put it would be the bottom 3, since Sukup's not really involved here, but 2nd, 3rd, and 4th all under a blanket here tonight. Sukup, Rex, Mong, Sabelski 4 of the top 5 cars still remaining on the speedway. Eric Gahn still out there as well, though it does look like he is a little bit off the pace this evening. Rex and Mong side by side. Mong going down low. He's going to get on the apron just a little bit. Still has it rolling side by side with Steve and Rex heading down into turn number 3. And with Rex stuck up on the outside, Mong is going to make the pass, and Sabelski is going to look and try and capitalize on Rex's position as well. Side by side through the back stretch, head down into turn number 3, and Sabelski is going to make the pass on Rex as well. So just like that, Rex back down to the 4th position. But mind you, Rex is the only driver that has not come down pit lane so far here tonight. So it's entirely possible that Rex has simply fallen back as part of his pit strategy, and including on that, he also is on older tires than the rest of these street stock drivers. 54 laps in the books though, about 45 left to go. Still plenty of time for these drivers to make some moves here in tonight's event. Rex starting to gain ground on Sabelski. He is actually making that lost time back slowly but surely, about 0.3 of a second between these two drivers. Especially looks like he's making the ground back up in turn number 3. He's sending it through 3 a lot harder than Sabelski is, but he starts to lose that ground again going through turns 1 and 2 and heading down that front stretch. And just like that, Rex is now back nearly 3/4 of a second from only being about 0.3 of a second behind him. The battle about the same between Sabelski and Mong, about 0.7 of a second between them. Very similar speeds between all 3 of these drivers. Last time by, 17.67, 17.67, and 17.8, so Rex falling back just a bit. And of course, Sukup a 17.5, so Sukup is still setting some incredibly good lap times here tonight. Again, last time by, interesting enough, Jason Mong set a faster lap time than Sukup by about 0.005 of a second, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that adds up here in these laps. Jason Mong, a driver that for the most part here this season we have seen outside the top 5, now setting the fastest lap times of the race in that number 70 Hershey's Racing Engines entry. Both him and Sabelski going to be scraping the outside wall a little bit down the front stretch, not doing themselves any favors. 61 laps in the books here tonight. We're getting into the final couple of chapters here this evening. Still, 30 laps is a decent amount to play around with, but we're at the stage where these drivers really need to start making moves if they want to be up in the front at the end of this race. It's not going to be easy though, and I'm sure Steven Rex in particular right now is hoping for a caution so we can go down pit lane without losing a lap. There's not a whole lot to see here tonight in the pit strategy box here this evening, but we can take a look down there just for a little bit of good luck. Sure enough, every single driver pit on lap 45 under that first yellow, except for Steven Rex, who is still out here on the speedway, the only driver not to pit, and funnily enough, the only driver still running in tonight's event that has not changed positions from where he qualified. Sorry, back P number 4, still riding back in P number 4 pretty dang comfortably here tonight. That said, why don't we head on down to the driver we were just talking about, Mr. Steven Rex here, and ride on board for just a moment with him and see what these drivers are seeing down here on the Concord Speedway here tonight. little bit of trouble for that driver coming out of turn number 3, heading down the front stretch. For the most part, that is the corner that drivers seem to have the most difficulty with, but Rex is getting really loose through that corner, and looks like his lap time's starting to slow down. Last time by, it's not fair to say last time by, because last time by was when he had that incident in the wall. So let's let him roll back around the speedway here before we give a bit more of an accurate lap time for him. Last time by, Rex posting an 18.41. Last time by, our race leader setting a 17.68. So Rex is starting to really have some handling issues under the hood, that number 10. Those tires are really starting to fade. And I'd imagine he is really hoping for a caution to come out, because I don't know if Rex's tires are going to last these remaining 27 or so laps here tonight. Again, getting really loose through turn number 3. That car is sliding all over the place. The rear end trying to kick out from under him with every single turn of the wheel he makes. At this point, Rex is just kind of holding on for dear life in that number 10 machine. That said, a little bit further back, Eric Gahn in the 51. Looking like he is having a little bit of the same story. A little bit of looseness coming through these corners, and especially now that he's got a bit of pressure from behind as the race leaders are starting to come around and potentially lap that number 51 machine. That would be putting him as the first car a lap down that is still on the speedway. Of course, Gardner laps down now. Been in pit lane for 10 minutes and 45 seconds now. That is Gardner's race over with without much of a second thought. He hasn't called it quits. He is still sitting in the car for what it's worth in that number 93 machine, but I don't think there's any hope of them getting fixed up enough to get back out on the speedway here tonight. I think it's just a matter of doing what work they can on it and getting it prepped and ready to head on over to the Las Vegas Bull Ring next week. You can see just behind Gahn, Sukup is catching up though. Riding on board with the number 51. Just behind him, that bright orange car, that is our race leader of Travis Sukup. And a little bit further behind him, that's the 70 of Jason Mong, who is still very much in this race here tonight. Gahn getting down on the apron, getting really loose there, nearly spinning it just a bit. You could hear those tires squealing from the audio on the onboard camera here. At 51 is having a little bit of a hard time getting around this tricky triangle here tonight. Travis Sukup catching up to the 51, and just in front of them, that is Steven Rex. Gahn has closed the gap on Steven Rex, and he might just be looking to make a pass for position as Sukup heads on down to the low side to get around these lap cars. Next order of business, getting around his teammate of Steven Rex, putting him a lap down as well. Rex, obviously, pulling it way up to the high side. He is going to let his teammate by. He's going to let him lead this race without any obstruction. But now we're side by side for position between the two cars a lap down, Rex and Gahn. Rex loose off the corner. 18 laps to go. And Rex is really pushing that car, trying to catch back up to the 51. Two drivers here, both with street stocks that have very little left on their tires to take them for these last 17 laps. Both of them loose through every single corner. They're sliding every single which way here tonight. And that's not a great feeling to be when you are that 70 of Jason Mong trying to catch back up to the race leader. Gahn's going to pull it up high. Excuse me, Rex going to pull it on by and let Mong on by. Mong going down low, trying to get around Gahn as well, and he's going to without too much issue, but that now is going to be a 2-second gap between Sukup and Mong to try and close the remainder of this race, and Rex is around. Rex is around. He's going to try and get it roll again. No caution out quite yet. And it looks like we're not going to get a caution here this evening. The iRacing.com automated race control has decided that is not worthy of a yellow flag, so we are going to keep it green. And speaking of yellow flags, just to spite me just talking about him and his team's ability to repair the car, Jason Gardner is back out on the speedway 35 laps down in that number 99 Kmart Little Caesars entry. He's got it rolling, it's turning the right direction, and 13 laps of seat time is 13 laps of seat time no matter how you twist it. That will be a little bit of extra practice for heading into the championship event next week. Now, a driver we haven't really talked about here tonight, the driver that is the last driver on the lead lap, that is the 85 of Brian Sabelski, looking to bring himself a podium if nothing else here this evening. Couple of positions up on Steven Rex, who is the driver that he is setting up to try and pass in the championship standings. 12 points dividing these two drivers. 2 positions, not going to be enough to cut it. But it's getting him just one step closer to potentially getting a top 3 finish in the season championship here tonight. That said, double high fives up in the air. 10 laps to go here in Concord, North Carolina. 10 more times around the speedway to decide who will be taking home the trophy. If Sukup does it, he will be tying the league record for most wins in a single race, or in a single season, mind you. Currently sitting at 5 here tonight. The record is 6, currently being held by Tyler McRae, so looking to try and tie his teammate for a league record here tonight. Just has to get through these next 8 laps, and he'll be able to make it happen. That said, looks like he is starting to get a little bit squirrely as well. At this rate, there's not a street stock out on the track anymore that is not having tire wear issues at this point. 7 laps to go. Eric Gunn pulling it way up high. Steven Rex actually pulling it way up high to let the leaders by. That was a 70 of Jason Mong that passed down below. Mong now a 3.15 second gap to the race leader. Things not looking so great for him to be able to catch up. Last time by roughly 3/10 of a second slower than our race leader. Next time by 2/10 of a second. So Sukup setting the fastest laps of the race still. About 4/10 off the pace from the actual lap record of tonight's event, but he still is setting the fastest laps of the laps that are being set right now in that 145 machine. 4 laps left to go for the driver of the 145. And Steven Rex looks like he is going to be coming down pit lane with 3 laps to go. His no pit strategy does not seem to work out for him. He was the last driver on the speedway to have not come down pit lane, and it sounded like the crew chief is on the radio with him saying that he is bingo on fuel. So 2 laps to go. That is going to be the end of Steven Rex's night. And I say that, and the caution flag comes out with 3 laps to go. Leave it to 4-time champion Brian Sabelski to throw us into overtime. Why not? I'll tell you what, there are a lot of drivers out here on this speedway who are probably either celebrating or absolutely mortified of how these next 3 laps are going to play out. But for now, let's take a look back and see what happened to Sabelski to bring out that caution flag here this evening. Taking a look back, sure enough, down at the number 85, Mr. Brian Sabelski. I would imagine it's about what we're all going to be expecting for this one. He sends it a little bit harder down into turn number 3 than maybe he anticipated. The car getting a little bit loose, snapping around on him. Basically, a repeat of what we saw for the first caution here this evening, but of course, no other cars collected, so that's a little bit of better news for that number 85. Just a single car around, not hitting anyone else with that spin in turn number 3. So that's going to be what brings out the second caution of the evening and what sends us into overtime here tonight. And shockingly enough, we have no takers on pit lane. Nobody pitted under this yellow. Everyone is going to say, you know what? We just got to gamble with what we got left on the car. And I mean, since everyone's come down pit lane already, I guess nobody has tires left. I guess everyone took tires on their first pit stop back on lap 45. And nobody has any spares left in pit lane. So these next 3 laps might just come down to who has conserved their tires the best. Because it's all going to come down to a 2-lap shootout. Sabelski, Sukup, and Mong, your top 3 drivers here tonight. Gone, Rex, Gardner, and Watkins all laps down. So it's looking like it's going to be a battle between your top 3 for the checkered flag here tonight. Unless I'm mistaken, because someone should be getting the lucky dog. If I'm not mistaken, Eric Gahn should be getting the lucky dog. There should be at least someone getting a wave around under this yellow. Well, the lights are still on the Ireson.com pace truck, so let's give it another minute around the speedway to get itself situated. I guess. Okay, well, we're pulling it down to pit lane. Apparently, this is going to be a single file restart. Green flag up in the air. Travis Sukup, Jason Mong, Brian Sabelski. And I'll tell you what, Sukup already off to a full second lead. The battle here is the battle for second between Mong and Sabelski. Mong looking to try and get his best ever finish of the season, trying to get his first podium of season number 9. A white flag up in the air, and Sukup is sailing away with this race side by side. Her car's not even on the same lap, a little bit further back in the field there. But Travis Sukup is going to take it home and be a 6-time winner here in the ASRC Oval Series season number 9. I'll tell you what, race fans, that's quite the bizarre finish to a race here this evening. But Sukup, he's going to get win number 6. He's going to tie the record for most wins in a single ASRC Oval Series race. And it's looking like he's going to burn it down just a little bit as he is once again propelled back up to the lead of the championship standings heading into the championship next week. Of course, don't go anywhere, race fans. We will be right back in just a moment with some words from your top 3 finishers. Alrighty, race fans, welcome back to the Concord Speedway, and of course, welcome back to now 6-time winner, Mr. Travis Sukup. You've now tied the record that Tyler McRae currently has for the most wins in a single season, and you should now be back on top of the championship standings here tonight. How were you feeling throughout this entire weird race, especially when that last caution came out with 3 to go?
pretty good. It felt pretty good. It was kind of tough not hearing or seeing Tyler, um, but it was still a good time.
It was certainly one heck of a race, and I don't think it really played out how anyone was expecting to, but that's about what you get when you go to a miniature version of Pocono. Of course, next week we are going to be heading to the bull ring for the championship of the season, and championship standings are still pretty dang close. Do you think you're going to have what you'll need to take it home heading on over to Las Vegas next week?
I don't know. I don't think I've ever been to that track, so it should be interesting, I guess.
Well, you got a whole week to practice and get ready for it, and I'm sure it's going to be quite the battle between teammates to bring home the championship. Of course, got to look back at what a crazy season it has been for you up until this point. Only maybe 1 or 2 wins to your name, and then suddenly we come here in season number 9 and you now have 6 wins under your belt. How are you feeling looking back at how these past 11 weeks have played out for you?
Well, I kind of miss the open setups, me personally. I mean, it's made better racing, so that part's fun. But I kind of like being able to tweak a little bit. It's a struggle not being able to do that, but still a lot of fun.
And it still seems like you're making these fixed setups work for you. 2 wins since we made the switch to fixed setup. You still got a whole lot of speed under that 145. But of course, for now, before I let you go and celebrate getting another win to your name, tying a league record, and letting you go and get prepared for the championship event, anyone you want to thank on the side of that 145 for getting you up here on the victory lane tonight?
Well, I think the same ones we always do. Although Tyler must not be feeling that well. He's been kind of fighting the last 2 weeks, so we hope he starts feeling better. Even though he wasn't here, it's all the stuff that he's taught me with this. It's been a lot of fun. So I guess all DBR and the league was a lot of fun.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out, and as always, I look forward to seeing you next week.
All right. Thank you for what you do, man.
And looking back down the roster, it does not look like we have Mr. Jason Mong up here in the booth to talk to. He finished back in P number 2, so we'll give him a little bit of time to show up. But in the meantime, finishing back in P number 3, Brian Sabelski. Once again, I find you up here in my broadcast booth. What a bizarre race it has been. How are you feeling now that everything's said and done here tonight?
I'm gonna be honest. I feel bad. I had 2 spins tonight, and one of them I accidentally collected Jason in it. I feel terrible about that. I mean, I don't know what was going on there. If I was just trying to straighten the car out because I thought I was in the racing line. And apparently, looking back, I was further up. I was a little further up than where I thought I was, and when I was trying to straighten back out, I hit Jason. So it's like it's my fault, obviously. Feel bad for it. Sounded like we talked about it after the race. Sounded like everyone was having just issues with that last turn. I just happened to catch it twice, unfortunately. I'm just glad we're done here with this setup and this car. It's not cooperating well.
Yeah, maybe not the race you were hoping for, but I'm sure you can think up any famous driver with wins and championships to their names, and they've all had a bad race at one point.
Yeah.
And either way, still another podium to your name, so getting you a little bit closer to Mr. Steven Rex in the 3rd championship position heading into the bull ring next week. How do you feel heading to a track that ASRC has never been to in its 9 seasons of running?
We went there with the late models, and yes, I'm looking forward to it because I really enjoyed when we went there in late models. I know this car will drive different, but it's a great track. I think when we didn't broadcast it because we had low numbers, but when we went there, I think we had the best racing of the whole late model season that we ran was at that track. So I kind of expect hopefully similar racing in these cars. I think it'll be nice and tight and close, and should be some good racing. So hopefully next week will be good.
Well, that sounds like a good plan, and sure enough, I'm looking back at my notes here, and you are right. And I did broadcast that race, and I forgot about it.
Oh, you forgot.
That was the race on Halloween because
it
we only had 4
was
drivers because everyone was out celebrating.
Right. It was really good racing too. I mean, it's a shame everyone else missed it, but hopefully we get a bunch of people there next week to check it out.
There are no holidays next Monday. None of these drivers have excuses. It's bound to be a heck of a championship one way or another. How are you feeling on your chances of getting around Steven and coming home on the podium in the championship standings?
Yeah, he's pretty tough. I think he had probably a rougher night than I did tonight. It seemed like the combination just didn't really suit however he wanted to drive the track tonight. So unfortunately, I think he probably ended up a little further away than he wanted to be from the front. But he is, not somebody that you can just kind of put aside. He's very good, and there's certain tracks he's very, very good at. I don't know with regards to bullring what his skill level is with that, but I'm gonna go in expecting that he's going to be tough to get by. So we'll hopefully have a good race.
Probably a good way of looking at things. Better to set your expectations high than to set them too low. But of course, For now, I'll let you head on out and celebrate getting a third, I'm not entirely sure. Yep, third podium to your name here this season. And of course, who do you got to think on the side of that 85 for getting you up here?
Just, obviously folks at McConey Setup Shop, as always, great setups, great people. Everyone hanging out on Twitch. Hi, everyone. Just had some people pop in too, so hello. And Jason, of course, for doing all the hard work and everything organized and putting this league together. What's nice is it seems that iRacing has made his plans for next season a little bit easier. I think we're running the new late model next season, the one that comes out in 2 weeks. So that should be good if we are. Can't wait to have to learn how to drive that car all over again. But it was fun last time we drove it, and so hopefully it'll be more of the same.
Sounds like a plan. Of course, always got to thank you for coming out every week, and I look forward to seeing you at the bull ring.
Absolutely. Catch you then.
Alrighty, race fans, you heard it here first. Travis Sukup and Brian Sabelski, your first and third place finishers, respectively. Fortunately, not able to get Mr. Jason Mong to pick up on the radio, but he's going to bring it home back in P number 2. Then round out the rest of the field, Eric Gunn going to come home in P number 4 with Steven Rex back rounding out the top 5. Then Jason Gardner, the league admin, having a bit of misfortune here tonight, going to be bringing it home P number 6 with Bill Watkins in the 337, rounding out the field here tonight. And of course, we've said it time and time again, next week we're going to be heading on over to the bull ring for the championship round of ASRC Oval Series season number 9. Can you believe it's already been 12 weeks since we switched back to the street stock? What a season it has been. But of course, for now, that's all we got here at the Concord Speedway for y'all here tonight. Big thank you from me up here in the broadcast booth, and a thank you from everyone in Attrition Sim Race Campus for tuning in to tonight's broadcast. And we look forward to seeing y'all next week, same day, same time, Monday at 10 p.m. Eastern, where we will be crowning a champion in Las Vegas. But for now, have a good evening, race fans. I look forward to seeing y'all next week.